All right. Okay, so thank you for joining in advance. All of those people who had joined before time, I hope you went through all that you could see here on the screen. We had sent your way some free concepts: quadratic inequalities, absolute equations, linear inequalities in two variables, and absolute inequalities. These free concepts were to help you make best use of the session today. Even in case you did not get the time to do that before the session, we would still highly recommend you go through these after the session today. It'll help you cement all that you learn here. No matter what, you've seen them, you've not seen them, the session is going to give you a lot today. Well, let me just start talking about this session, these two sessions that we're going to conduct next week. We keep doing these sessions for you regularly. So next Saturday, July 31 at 7 a.m. PST, which is the same time as today, you're going to have your free GMAT CR webinar, Critical Reasoning. You will learn the skill of pre-thinking to tackle 700 plus level CR questions with ease. You'll just see how, if you've never done pre-thinking before, how this will be the one that will make all of the difference in your accuracy and timing. Then Sunday, August 1 is a free GMAT geometry webinar where you will learn the concepts, the practice, the process skills, and a lot of application details about geometry. Now, there was this poll that we had put here about when do you plan to take the GMAT. I can see a lot of votes here, but in case you haven't already put in your vote, please mark your answers here. I can see that the majority is of people who have the exam in sometime beyond 75 days, 36% of you, and there still are 7% of us who have the exam in the next 15 days. Well, whatever end of the spectrum you're on or in the middle, this session, try to make as good use of this as possible. Support this with the free lessons that we sent your way. Together, this is going to make you very, very confident for this algebra section in the exam, and you'll be able to tackle them with ease in the exam. Now I'm going to take you to the presentation screen. So again, I'll just open the yes/no poll. Mark yes the moment you can see the poll, the presentation. It should say Algebra Quant Live Session. It might take a few seconds for a few of you to load. Okay, I have a lot of yeses now. Thank you very much. With this, let's all start with the session today. Before that, let me just, explain all that you're going to see on your screen. So you already see the presentation part of it. This is where you'll see the PPT throughout. Then on the right side of the PPT, I just brought in this poll where you see mark your answer. This is where you'll be marking your answers. It's not like you're going to write them in any comments or anywhere. You will put them all in polls. Right below this, you see this short answer pod. This is the chat pod where you and I are going to talk. So this is, for example, I ask you a question, I ask you something, and then you answer me here. Those direct communication, that direct communication that we're going to have you with your host is going to happen here. Now, below the algebra presentation screen, you also see the Q&A pod. The Q&A pod is where you can ask other questions. For example, I explained a certain question and now I've moved on, but you have something stuck there and you could not talk to me during the chat time, then you can always put that here, and Atreya is going to help you. Atreya is supporting us today. Let me just introduce the both of us here. I am your host for today, Shweta Koshira, and Atreya is our co-host. So as I said, all the questions that I will not be able to directly take, Atreya will help you in the Q&A pod. With that now, let's see what all we have. Well, this is a very interesting part. Only 6% of people, score 720 plus, and a good percentage of those 6% use e-GMAT. They prepare the right way. They work the right way. Now, Quant 2.0 is your solution for all quant problems. We've recently launched this, and here are a few success stories. Just watch this and you'll see what I mean. So it's a substantial upgrade over the original Quant files. That was Quant 1.2, 1.0. This is from students. So it says Quant 2.0 does a great job of slowly teaching the concepts from a foundational level. So even if you're someone who has no background with math, or it's been years and years since you did math last time, you still don't have anything to worry. Now, this is great for people with no maths background, as you see, but that does not mean in case you're strong with math, then this is not going to help you. It is going to go all the way from A to Z. So be prepared for this wonderful journey. Now, look at this beautiful chart. This is for this year 2021, from 1st Jan through 31st May. This is all of those people who got 49 Q49 plus scores. These are on GMAT Club. Now you can see how e-GMAT accounts for 47 of these, while all of the nearest neighbors, the very next one has 25, which is almost half of it, and after that it's not even 10 anywhere. So this again is something that gives you proof how what we do the best way. And not only quant, look at the whole thing. This is 700 plus scores in just the month of June 2021. We had 26 success stories, and the runner-up had 1/3, in fact less than 1/3 of that. Now, two parts to this webinar, mainly the live session, and towards the end, if you have any questions, we'll take that. Most likely that does not happen because I try to keep this session very, very interactive while it is going on. So you guys, I encourage you to ask your questions the moment you feel you feel like there's any confusion. Don't wait for anything. The purpose of the session is to teach you application of concepts in GMAT context. We know concepts a lot of times. We know things like, okay, the sum of the three angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. That is a concept. But when it comes to solving questions using those concepts, a lot of times we find it hard to do that. That is the gap between concepts and application. You'll see how you can apply your concepts when it comes to a GMAT question. You'll learn the exact process of solving questions, the main takeaways that you get from the session. Make sure you note them down. Now, the takeaways might not be exactly the same for everybody. There might be a person, when I discuss a solution and that person finds out, oh my God, I made this mistake. Not everybody might have made that, but if you did make that mistake, then it's something that you should note down. It's something that you find out about yourself. And as we know, identification is the first step. Once you know what you do wrong, only then can you correct it, So make sure you make these notes, and we'll be able to highlight possible gaps in your preparation. You will clearly see, okay, this is something I knew, this is something I did not know. These are all the concepts that are covered here in the webinar today. We will begin with a warm-up quiz. This is just going to warm all of us up. You'll be ready for everything. We'll be ready for everything. And then we'll apply it in GMAT context. There'll be 5 problem-solving questions and then 3 data sufficiency questions. Okay. Now, warm-up section first. Warm-up, as the name, is self-explanatory. You are going to have basic questions here. These are not going to be very, very intense. All you'll need is, some basic level of understanding of your concepts, and you'll know if the problem is right there at the conceptual stage or if it is at the application stage. So we will have solutions, but the solutions will not be super, super detailed because all these contained really are concepts, nothing huge at all. Now, with this, everybody get your pens and paper ready. You are gonna go into the very first question, but before that, one small rule. Look here when I show you the mark your answer poll. Look at the poll where you mark your answers. There is this choice called still solving. Once you mark still solving, I will count you as an active participant. If you're not here, then you're not actively participating in the session. Now, only people who actively participate will be the ones who will decide the pace of the session. How long you take to answer a question is how long I give you to answer a question. Okay, so from all the people who mark still solving, the moment I have responses from say 70% of the population, I'm going to start discussing. So I already have 21 people say they're ready for this. And how many participants do we have right now? This is clearly way less than we have. Let's have more people say they're ready for this. All right, so we have 96 people, 97 people, and 45 people are ready. So that means half of the people, less than half of the people are ready for this. Please do not mark C or D. Those are answers that you'll mark once you see the question. Right now, all I want to see is that you're ready. All right, let's all get into the first question. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll, please make sure you put in your answers before then. Do not stay in the still solving block only. Think of this as the exam and this being the last question. Leaving a question unanswered is more heavily penalized than getting it wrong. You might as well get this wrong. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, let's show you the results. Okay, so as you see, the majority went with B. 70% of you thought it is B. Very few votes for A, D, and C, but nevertheless, they did get votes. And 12% of the people stayed in the still solving block. Let's discuss this now. What is the range of values of y? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find out y from this inequality that only has y in it. It's not as if it's a, it has many variables to work on anyway. How do you get for a single variable? Well, very simple. You first of all get all of your variable on one side and all of the constants on the other side. So what is really happening here is first 4y and negative y are brought together. How? By adding y on both sides. So the left side becomes 5y plus 10 and the right side just becomes 0. Now I want to remove this 10. How do I remove this 10? I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. So that removes my 10 completely from the left hand side, and on the right side it becomes a negative 10. Finally then you just divide both sides by 5 and you get y greater than negative 2. Everything here you see was really like equations are solved. Nothing different at all. Just that instead of having an equal to sign you had a greater than sign, but that did not mean you solved any differently. So 70% is a very good accuracy, but 30% of the people who got this wrong, just see the kind of mistakes you had made. 9% of you who went with A, you really had just the opposite sign of what it had to be. That means there was some step here along the way where you flipped the sign of the inequality. Now, there was nothing till now that required you to do that. When you're adding something on both sides, you added y, or when you're subtracting something on both sides, you subtracted 10. or when you're dividing both sides by a positive number, none of these require you to flip the sign of the inequality. So in case you did that, it was not needed. You could not have done that. Now, let's go on to the next question, everyone. I'm going to reopen this poll. Please mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Okay, good. This time the numbers are going up faster. Very, very good. Here is warm-up question 2, everyone. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll. All right, and I'm ending the poll here. Okay, let me show you the results now. So the majority this time, 71%, almost the same accuracy as last time, went with B. That is the correct answer. Good job, everyone. Let's discuss this. We had barely any vote for A. We had C and D still, 6% and 8%. So 14% people did go with C and D. Let's see what was different this time. Well, this time, instead of having a single variable, you have two variables. There's X and there's Y, but the goal is still the same. The goal is still to find Y from this. Now, it was so simple in the previous question, right? You didn't have any X to work with, to somehow eliminate. There, all you had was a Y. You just had to get them all on one side and you were through. Now though, to get Y, there is this extra step you have to do of eliminating X. Now how do you eliminate something from an inequality? First rule here is that you have to make sure that whatever you want to eliminate, it should have the same coefficient in both inequalities. And not just the same coefficient, in fact, it should have the opposite sign of the coefficient as well. So when I look at this first inequality, my X has a coefficient of 1. In the second one, it has a coefficient of -2. Not the same number, right? There's 1 and -2. First of all, both of them should have the same numerical value. So this first one should also have X equal to 2. And how do I get that? Well, I'll multiply the entire first inequality by 2, and because it is a positive number, nothing changes. I get 2x minus 2y greater than -6. Then just write the two inequalities one below the other as we have, and you see how we automatically got opposite signs. There is 2 and -2. Now I can just add these two inequalities. The moment I add them, 2x plus minus 2x will just become 0x, so x will vanish. For the y's, it's minus 2y plus 3y, which is y, and then minus 6 plus 4 is minus 2 as well. Nothing changed about the sign. Now, why could I add these two inequalities? Can I add any two inequalities in the world? I cannot. So here's a small rule for you. Inequalities with the same sign can be added together. So both of these inequalities here were greater than inequalities, both of them, and that is why I could add them. If one of them was greater than, the other one was less than, you will not be able to add them. Okay, so this was one thing here, and what we did overall was you had to eliminate your x, for which you made them have the same coefficient, but they still have to have opposite signs, and here they did. Then you just freely add them and you get rid of your x. So I hope everybody now understood this, all those of you who got this wrong the first time. With this now, I'm going to take you to the next one. You know the drill. You have to click on still solving first. Okay. All right, nice. Here is question number 3. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll. All right. This time now, before I discuss anything, let me just first show you the results. Look, very interesting. You have very, very close votes in B, C, and A. B got the majority, 30%. Then there was C with 27% and A with 21%. The only option that did not get enough votes was D. Well, before I start discussing this time, I'm going to open the chat board. Now, this is the time we talk. Tell me, everyone, write down the values of M that you counted to finally mark your answer. What were the values of M that you had? 1 and 2. 0, 1, and 2. Just 1. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Until 2.5. Whatever you counted to finally mark your answer. So I can see a lot of you had 0, 1, 2. A lot of you also had just 1 and 2. Okay, that's what the majority has. Yes. Now one thing here. The people who did not include 0, did you think that non-negative means positive? All those of you who did not count 0, write down in the chat box, What do you think non-negative means? Is non-negative the same as positive? That is definitely the reason why you did not choose 0. Okay, so people who did not choose 0, this is what precisely you thought. Non-negative just means that they are not negative. Not negative does not mean you're positive. Not negative means either it is positive or it is 0. That's also allowed because 0 is a non-negative number, right? 0 is non-negative, non-positive. It comes in both of the categories. So non-negative also includes 0. The three values really should have included 0 as well. Let's look at the solution here. The correct answer is C, and the majority this time is wrong because the majority, 30%, did not consider 0 as one of them. Just look at how such a small thing here, one little term, got this wrong for you. So simple enough, this was writing the inequalities one below the other. You wanted to find out m anyway, so you wanted to eliminate n. Now the beauty of the question was it was sweet enough to give you something that you can already eliminate n. You could just directly add them and it will vanish. What you had here was negative 4m is greater than negative 10. After this, removing that negative 1 was an important step. So if I multiply both sides by minus 1, my left side is 4m, right side is 10, and the inequality flips. This is the only place where the inequality flips. Nowhere else does it happen. So read this point here. Sign of inequality changes when it is multiplied by a negative number. Also, if it is divided by a negative number, because division is really very similar to how multiplication works. So you ultimately get m is less than 2.5. I remember reading that in the chat box as well. So if m is less than 2.5, what are all the integral values? That means what are all the integers there? It is 0, 1, 2. Actually, there could be negatives as well, but the question specified it is non-negative. So I hope everybody understood this. 0 definitely is an integer. I see a question here, 0 is not an integer, right? 0 is an integer. 1, 2, 3, 4, these are all your positive integers. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, these are your negative integers. And 0 is the one which is neither positive nor negative. But that does not mean it is not an integer only. Okay, I hope everybody understands this one, and this is now a key learning point for you. All those of you who missed this, make a note of this. This is your first point. I'm going to reopen the poll. You know you need to mark still solving, and then we're going to go on. Let's increase the number further. We have 112 participants now, and 60 people are ready for this. Come on. The more you interact, the more you're going to get here. Okay, thank you. Here's warm-up question number 4. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll. All right, let me first show you the results and then we'll start discussing. Okay, so as you can see, the majority this time went with C. 59% of you thought that C is the correct answer, and congratulations, that is correct. So good job here, the majority got this right. We're back up from where the majority went wrong. Let's discuss this. So here, this was the first example we had of a quadratic inequality. Yes, this is in the factored form, but nevertheless, this is quadratic. When you multiply this, you are going to get an x squared term. Now I'm going to give you two methods of solving this. The first one is more natural, when you use just your basic conceptual knowledge, when the product of two numbers is positive, when the product is negative, and so on. The second method is the wavy line method, which is something that is more useful when it comes to more complicated inequalities, whether it's quadratic or cubic or fourth power. Everywhere that method is going to work. But right now, let's do it the conceptual way. So here it's a product of two numbers. There's one number x minus 2, another one is x minus 3, and the product is positive. When is the product of two numbers positive? Either when both of them are positive or when both of them are negative, right? These are the only two possibilities. Let me first work here where both of them are positive. So if x minus 2 is positive, it's a very simple inequality to solve. I just get x is greater than 2. Similarly, if x minus 3 is positive, I get x is greater than 3. Now remember, there's an AND here. What that means is that x minus 2 and x minus 3 are both positive, which means x is greater than 2 and x is greater than 3. Now, do I need to say these two things really? If x is greater than 3, then obviously x is greater than 2 as well. I don't need to write both of them. So the one thing that I can get from this first case is that x is greater than 3. Similarly, let's look at the second case where x minus 2 is negative and x minus 3 is negative. So what you get is x is less than 2 as well as less than 3. Now again, you don't need to say both things. If you just say x is less than 2, then it automatically is less than 3 as well. So this is the one thing you get from this case. Overall, it's everything less than 2, which is negative infinity to 2, and 3 to infinity. This is how you get the second part of your range. So very well done here. All of the people who did not get this, 41% of you, tell me if you now feel confident about this. Let me just bring in the yes/no poll here. Tell me if you all understand how we got this answer. Perfect. Wonderful. That looks great. 100%. Very nice. Okay, now let me also give you the other method I was talking about, the wavy line method. Look closely. So here is the expression that you want to be positive. You want this product to be positive. First step, take each factor equal to 0 one by one. When you take x minus 2 equal to 0, you get x equal to 2. And from the second one, you get x equal to 3. These two, 2 and 3, I will call them 0 points or break points. What I first need to do is put them both on the number line like this. Of course, 2 is smaller, so 2 comes on the left and 3 comes on the right. Now, you see how the coefficient of x in both of these factors is positive. That is important for the method that I'm going to explain here. There are situations in which what happens if it is positive, it's different there. But whenever the coefficient of x is positive, then you start making a wave from the top right hand corner. So top right is this side. From there, go to the first 0 point. So you go here, cross the 0 point and come below the number line here. Stay below the number line till you reach the other 0 point, which is 2. Then cross this 2 also and go up on the other side of the number line. So every time you cross a 0 point, you go from above to below the number line and from below to above the number line. And where are you starting? You're starting in the top right hand corner. Once you do this, you're through. Whenever you're above the number line, the expression is positive. Whenever you're below the number line, your expression is negative. End of story. Now what did you want? You wanted it to be positive. So just look at your number line. Where is it positive? It's positive here on the right of 3 and positive here on the left of 2, which is precisely what you got from the previous method, that it is either on the left of 2, negative infinity to 2, or it's on the right of 3, 3 to infinity. Okay, I am just opening the chat pod. Ask away any questions that you might have about this. It's a very important method, and I want all of you to enjoy the speed that this gives you. And that can only happen once you understand this. The chat pod is open. Write down if there are any doubts. And if no doubts, just click on yes. Okay, when to do this? When results are positive. No. The result could be positive. The result could be negative. This could be anything. But what I said is that you're free to draw the wave from the top right hand corner if the coefficients of x are positive. Okay, please explain the logic why x must be positive. As I said, it's not a logic, it's the situation in which you can start drawing the wave from the top right hand corner. If you did not have that, listen to this carefully everybody. If instead of having x minus 3 here, I had 3 minus x, then the coefficient of x would not be positive. So I would do one extra step. I would rewrite my 3 minus x as x minus 3, but with an extra negative sign. And when I'll multiply both sides of the inequality by -1, then to get rid of that negative sign, my inequality will flip. The moment I make all of my coefficients of x positive, I'll again be free to make the wave from the top right hand corner. I just answered this. How to decide where to start? I just answered that. Okay, when is the slope downward? We're not doing slopes here. Really what is happening is you start drawing this wave and alternate from above to below the number line. That's it. Don't think about slopes at all. Just make sure that you make your coefficients of x positive if they're not already so. And if they're already so, then you're free anyway to start from the top right hand corner. Alright, I answered all of them. I feel very happy about this. With this now, let's all go into warm-up question number 5. But of course, let's first have the still solving drill. Okay, the poll is now open, everyone. Okay, come on, show some more energy. We are 120 people here now. And only 60 people feel ready. Come on. All right, here is warm-up question 5. Good luck. 15 seconds before I end the poll. Alright, so let me first broadcast the results here. Okay, so we can see how the majority went with C, but it's a small majority this time. 48% of you are there and 24% with D, 8% each with A and B as well. So what was different really in this question was that you had something in the denominator. In the previous question, you had both of your factors in the numerator, and you already see how, you saw how we could solve that using basic conceptual knowledge as well as using the Wavy line method. Now, one extra step was required in this question, which was to first get this into the form of the Wavy line method. Now, one thing here. If you just directly thought of multiplying both sides by x plus 4 to get x minus 3 less than 0 and just get x less than 3, then you're wrong. Why? Because how do you know the sign of x plus 4? If x plus 4 is a positive number, then yes, when I multiply both sides with that positive number, I am going to get x minus 3 less than 0. But if x plus 4 is a negative number, then when I multiply both sides by this x plus 4, my inequality will flip. I'm going to have x minus 3 greater than 0 in that case. So there is that confusion. You can't be sure what the inequality will become. So if you do that, you'll have to solve two different cases. One where it's positive, one where it's negative. On the other hand, there's a simpler method. Just multiply with the square of the denominator. Now what happens is, see, your denominator anyway cannot be 0, otherwise it would not be in the denominator. If I square it, it's definitely a positive number. Anyway, the square of anything in the world is either 0 or positive, but this can't be 0 because it is in the denominator. So you're sure that the square of the denominator is a positive number. So you can guarantee that if you do this, then the sign will not change. So the left side will become x plus 4 times x minus 3, and on the right side, of course, when 0 is multiplied by anything, it still stays 0. Now this is the same format as you saw in the previous question. Just get your 0 points or your break points as negative 4 and 3. Draw the wave from the top right hand corner. Yet again, see how the coefficients are positive? So you're free to do that. Then keep switching from above to below, from below to above the number line, and ultimately see what you want. You want it to be less than 0. Where is it less than 0? When it's below the number line. So between negative 4 and 3, and C is the correct answer. All those of you who marked D, you chose the opposite answer. You chose this one. Everything on the left of negative 4 and everything on the right side of 3. You chose where this expression is positive while we wanted it to be negative. So that was just a very careless mistake. All of you, make it a point that before you mark your final answer, you see what you want. It happens, when we're solving something under time pressure, we're being timed, then the moment we get an answer, we get excited, we see that in the choices, we just mark it and we go on. But in that excitement, the exam gets this chance to trap us. It will put the choice that you get on the way. And that on the way choice, a lot of people mark. If only you check once more, okay, am I answering the right thing? You'll never fall in that trap. All right, I hope everybody understood this. Now, number 5 is all about Wavy line method again, where we taught you what happens if something is in the denominator. Next question that I'm going to take you into is different. There, you're going to have absolute values, something that you did not have till now. So let's get ready for that, everybody. Please mark still solving, and let's see this next type now. Steadily, we're trying to build your concepts, and with all of these now, you'll go into GMAT style questions. Okay, a few more people. Please mark still solving. Okay, great. Here's warm-up number 6. Good luck. Ending the poll in 5 seconds. Okay. Let's see the results. Well, the majority, a good majority, went with C, and congratulations, that is the correct answer. So 68% of you got this right. Let me explain this still in detail. I am again going to give you 2 methods here for this one, and the 32% that did not get this right, please listen to this very carefully. I'm going to ask you after I explain which step exactly you did wrong. Okay, so here's method number 1. I have the absolute value of x plus 3 as less than equal to 5. First thing I can do is, in this method, I'll just replace my x plus 3 by a single variable. I'll start calling it z. So what I have therefore is that absolute value of z is less than equal to 5. So it's just this one single number whose absolute value is 5 or less. Now, what all numbers can this be? This is the range of numbers between -5 and 5 inclusive. Any number you take here and you find the absolute value, it is going to be something which is less than or equal to 5. Now, once you get this, you've already solved the absolute value. You got the range, but the range that you have is not for x, it's for x plus 3. That is what z was, right? So just ultimately replace your z by x plus 3 again. And then how do you get x from this? It's a sandwich inequality. So whatever you have to do, you do it on all of the sides. So to get from x plus 3 to x, what you need to do is just subtract 3, right? So subtract that 3 on all the sides. Once you do that, the leftmost side here becomes -5 minus 3, so -8. Here it becomes 5 minus 3, so 2, and in between you just have x. So this is one way of getting the solution. Okay, so I'm opening the yes/no poll here. Tell me if this method makes perfect sense to you. The chat box is also open if you want to talk to me and ask something specific about this. For the people who are saying no, please use the chat box to tell me what exactly is confusing you here. This is the most basic of absolute value questions. How did we assume the value -5? Assumption is a very heavy word. It is something that I always caution people against on the GMAT. We never assume. So here also I'm not assuming. What is happening here is that just think about the number -5. What is the absolute value of -5? Mod of -5 or modulus of -5 is 5 only. So that also does get included, no? Why don't we just transfer 3 to the other side? We did transfer 3 to the other side here. when we subtracted 3 on all the sides? Okay, opening the mod is the confusion. Well, opening the mod is really very simple. If you just remember that once the mod opens with a plus sign, that is as it is, and another time it opens with a minus sign, so a minus z. Can you please explain the two cases when either x plus 3 is positive or x plus 3 is negative? Well, see, what is happening here is, again, think of x, think of z as some number. Don't get into too much pressure on anything. Relax. Think about x, think about z being any number, some number whose absolute value is either 5 or less. First of all, tell me what numbers will have absolute value equal to 5. Which are the numbers that have absolute value equal to 5? Just tell me that much in the chat. All those people who are confused, keep answering me. That is how I'll be able to spend time here. Yes, 5 and minus 5. Those are the only two numbers whose absolute value is 5. Then think of anything between negative 5 and 5. Any number you take between negative 5 and 5, negative 4 or 4 or negative 3 or 1.5 or 0. All of these are going to have absolute value less than 5. Right? That is how it's this entire range between negative 5 and 5. That is what z was. And the moment you had z, then there was nothing to do really. You just replaced your z with x plus 3. Okay, great. A lot of you told me the right values of this, of z, negative 5 and 5. It was only about getting the range between the two of them. Okay, now this was method number 1. Can we use the Wavy method here? No. Wavy line method is for quadratic or higher inequalities. This is a linear inequality. You just have one power here. All right, now let's go on to the second method. This is the distance approach. So what we do is we try to read this whole thing in terms of a distance statement. Listen to this very carefully. Distance less than or equal to 5 from minus 3. So you're looking for all those x's whose distance from minus 3 is less than or equal to 5. Why minus 3? There's just a small rule here that whatever sign you have inside your inequality, you take the reverse of that. So if it's a plus 3, then the distance you're measuring is from minus 3. If inside the absolute value you had mod of x minus 2, then because it's a minus 2, you'll actually be measuring the distance from 2. Just remember that much. Now here what's happening is that the distance from minus 3 is either 5 or less than that. Where is the distance 5 now? You go 5 units to the right or 5 units to the left, of course. Now when you go 5 units to the right, you reach 2. When you go 5 units to the left, you reach negative 8. So this is precisely where the distance is 5. But what all are you allowed? You're allowed to have either 5 or less of a distance. How will my distance from negative 3 be less than 5? Only if I come closer to it, right? So I'll come inside, come closer to negative 3. So this entire range, negative 8 to 2, this is precisely what you had from method number 1 as well. So these are two approaches that you can use, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you think comes more naturally to you, or if you spend time and build the distance approach, it is the faster one. All right, I hope everybody understood this. The yes/no poll is open again. Tell me if you feel confident about this. We are going to see more questions, and of course when you see the recording, when you go through the free concepts that we sent your way, you're going to feel more confident. Wow, thank you for that beautiful response. I have 100% people say they got this. Oh, that became 97. Okay, with this now everybody, we're done with the warm-up section. So what is absolutely essential here is that you feel 200% confident about all of the questions that you saw here. Because these are conceptual questions, and if your concepts are not very strong, then your foundation is not very strong, and if you don't have a strong foundation, you can't have a strong building that is application related. How can you apply things when you don't know what they really are? So you make sure you spend time on these again. If you got even one question wrong here, spend time on the concept behind it, understand it, watch the video once you get it, go through the free concepts, okay? Because actual GMAT application, of course, is going to be higher in level compared to all of these warm-up questions. So these you have to be very, very comfortable about. I'm opening the chat box now. Everybody tell me, what are your biggest takeaways till here? What are the things you didn't know and things that you had forgotten, or what all? Anything at all? Okay, the one with the denominator. Yeah, multiplying both sides by the square. While revising the sign, yes, reversing the sign, sorry, when you're multiplying, dividing by a negative number. Where can I find the recording? You'll get it on your email. Got a few basics right, yes. I'll have to go back to absolute values. Definitely do. I'm glad you realized where the gap is. Okay, approaches such as the wavy line method. Non-negative was right in front of my eyes. Well, you know, constraints are always right in front of our eyes, and it's a big problem. So many people get questions wrong just because they don't see constraints. Okay, modulus inequality, found trouble with that earlier. I'm glad you feel better now. Wavy line method, wavy line. Okay, a lot of people see wavy line method as a very new thing. Do we have it somewhere in the blog apart from video? Yes, Atreya, I think this is the right point. Could you share that link about wavy line? Please read all of this. Atreya is going to share a beautiful, a link to a very nice article. Go through that. You'll feel very, very confident. Why did we take 0 as non-negative if it's neither positive nor negative? Oh, think about it. If 0 is not negative, then aren't you yourself saying that 0 is non-negative? What's the difference between not negative and non-negative? Nothing. First, check the coefficient and sign of a variable before multiplying. Yeah, that's beautifully put. Visualization of mod was new. Yeah. Okay, wavy line method, didn't understand. The link is here. Use this, all of you. You have wavy line method. You have this beautiful error log that you all have to get into the habit of. This is what I'm trying to get you introduced to today. You know, find out where you're faltering. The more detailed you get about this, the more chance you're giving to yourself of never making those errors again. Okay, with this now, let's move on more confidently, but because there is so much that you've already seen, I'll take this opportunity to tell you a little more about Quant 2.0. Quant 2.0 gives you the chance to understand where you're starting before you just get on a journey of preparing something. Now, so many of you today might be, good with all 6 questions that we did. Well, so many of you might have gotten 1 wrong, 2 wrong, 3 wrong. Everybody you see has a different starting point. So if you have different starting points, naturally your journeys are going to be different. Now, Quant 2.0 has this feature where every single module has a diagnostic quiz. In that diagnostic, if you perform really, really well, the course is going to tell you, okay, you're eligible to skip this file, you're eligible to skip that file. You already know that. But if you don't score well, the course will ask you to solve that. You will get feedback constantly. Right now you're getting feedback from me live. There also you're going to get feedback every 10 minutes into the course. Now, this is how a typical course structure looks like. This is a module in algebra called linear inequalities. Just see how you have a diagnostic quiz in the beginning. GMAT skill diagnostic means it's made up of questions that are GMAT style questions. The very next diagnostic quiz is a concept diagnostic quiz. This one only tests whether your concepts are good or not. Okay, so sometimes what happens is we score very poorly in the GMAT skill diagnostic test, but well in the concept diagnostic quiz. What that means is our concepts are good, but we just don't know how to apply them in GMAT style. Sometimes both our scores are not very good. That means we have to build the concepts first. It's all of that key information you're going to get right here in the first two activities. Then these are all concept files. You go through concepts based on what the course suggests you to do. In the end, then you have these practice files, which is the final test, so that you'll be able to see, okay, I started with a diagnostic quiz score of 40%, and the final score I got is 80%. That confidence you'll get there will be beautiful. And if you get 80% and beyond in every single file here, not in the first time, of course, but if you revise and then you reattempt and then you do meet the targets, you can be sure to get your target score in Quant. Okay, now with this, let's go on. This also is a few more bits of information here. You have 6 detailed courses. There's everything: algebra, number properties, geometry, advanced topics, everything that there is, with 120 plus interactive concepts, 300 plus practice and learning quizzes, not questions, quizzes, out of which 40 are just diagnostic quizzes. You're not going to do anything that you don't need. Okay, every module is going to tell you how much you need to do, so you're only focusing on what is important for you. 1900 plus questions. It's more than you need. It's enough. If you just do these things properly, nothing can stop you from getting your target score. Now let's go on to a little more detail here about our questions. So process skills. Remember, I talked about this in the beginning of the session, that there is this gap between concepts and application. So many times we know a concept but we can't apply it. The bridge there is process skills, and we stress on that heavily. Let me just give you one small example, you'll understand. Just visualize a very, very long word problem. The problem with word problems is that they're lengthy and it's so hard to even understand what is the question saying. Forget about solving it. If somebody could just give us those beautiful equations already made and asked us to solve them, we would be able to solve it. But then the translation is what makes it different. So that is one process skill. So we focus a lot on building the right skills in you. The diagnostic quizzes I talked about, the concept quizzes, every concept we'll test you on, and finally GMAT style questions. Things, if done correctly, will lead you to success. That is guaranteed. And this is just a recap of the success I showed you this year. e-GMAT holds for 47 of Q49 plus scores on GMAT Club, and it holds 26 of the 700 plus reviews in just 1 month, in just the month of June 2021. Just contrast this here with all of the companies that you already have heard of. Now our students speak for us. Feel free to go on GMAT Club, read a few reviews. That's really going to pump you. You are going to feel more motivated when you see somebody else having gotten their target score. Now you also get the chance here to talk to a strategy expert. Sometimes we do need this help in planning our journey. Everybody, as I said, starts somewhere else and wants to go somewhere else, and we feel difficult how to strategize the whole preparation. So reach out here. Atreya has just shared a link. Reach out and you can talk to a strategy expert for this. Now, here's a deal. You can download the brochure here. GMAT Online, world's most successful course by e-GMAT, has 10 times as many 700 plus scores in 2021 as the average course sold by GMAT Club partners. Just see here, it's another chart that shows you proof of our success. So right now it is at $299 compared with the usual price of $599. It's a beautiful deal. I'm sure you would not want to miss that. Now it's time, all of us, let's come back to math. We will get back into GMAT style questions this time. You are going to use the concepts that I taught you till now through the warm-up questions. Apply them here on these 600, 700 level questions. Now this time we're going to have, since these are proper GMAT style questions, you are going to have just how the GMAT does, 5 choices for every question. But still now the drill stays the same. You mark still solving before anything happens. So the poll is open. Let's increase the numbers, everybody. Show me some energy. That is what keeps me pumped throughout the session. And I'm sure you don't want me to lose energy. All right, come on. Yes, thank you. Beautiful response. Here's question number 1, everyone. Good luck. Apply everything you learned till here. Be careful. – 15 seconds before I end the poll. Okay, let's end the poll. Let me show you the results this time. Yes, so the majority, 65% of you went with choice C, and C is the correct answer, so good job. We had the next closest neighbor, next closest competitor in choice B, so 12%. Not a very large percentage, but yes. Let's discuss this. So what you had, this was a very simple question really. It was very similar to the very first warm-up question you saw, where there was a single variable to work with and you had to get the value of that variable. So the one thing I said there was get all of your variables on one side and get the numbers, the constants on the other side. Once you do that, you get your variables on one side. It's 16x minus 48x, and the constant goes to the other side, becomes 96 minus 32. See how the inequality did not change, and why would it change? I said the only time it does change is if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Otherwise it doesn't. Now this is what you get when you do the math. What do you do now? First of all, removing the negative 1 means you multiply both sides by minus 1. This is when the sign of the inequality flips. So 32x is less than minus 64. Finally, divide both sides by 32, which is a positive number. So again, nothing had to change. So x is just less than minus 2. Now, less than minus 2 gave you choice C. For all those of you who forgot to flip the sign here, you would get x greater than minus 2. Just look here. So 12% of you missed this very simple point that we had done in the warm-up, and as I said, take the learnings that you get from one question forward. That is the true path for growth, right? Isn't it? You learn something and you don't forget it. You apply it as you go on and you're going to see change then. Okay, with this now, we're done with this first question. Let me take you to the next one, but still solving first. Okay, here's question number 2. Good luck. Ten seconds before I end the poll. Okay, let's end this. Look at this time and you'll see why I say that these are very interesting results. The majority went with A, negative 5.5, and then the next closest choice was B with negative 5. I'll just say one little thing here, and all of you who marked A will realize what you did. Read the question again, everybody who marked A, and tell me in the chat box if you already realize what you did wrong. Yes, only the people who marked A. Read it and tell me if you realize it already. Okay, good. I'm glad you realized this yourself. Yes. Remember what I said? That in that pressure, we do not read what the question wants. We're just so much in a hurry to mark what we have. The question does not want what you have. It wants what the correct answer is. Spend that final 2 second, 3 second check. Do that and do not fall into these traps. Just look at how the majority went wrong. 40% people did not read the word integer here. That's huge. That is what I said, that not reading constraints is a big reason people do not score well, because they're not in the habit of reading things again before giving the final answer. The rest of them, because I can see 70% of you are between A and B, I already know that you know how to solve it. The problem is not that. So let me just quickly go through that anyway. The first inequality is the same as what you had in the previous question, so that's less than negative 2 only. The second inequality you solve, you get x greater than equal to minus 5.5. The range is this. Now what you saw was, oh, it's greater than equal to minus 5.5. So minus 5.5 is allowed. So that's it, we're done. Nobody thought of the constraint ultimately. If you thought of that, then the minimum integer, which is greater than negative 5.5, is negative 5. You would not have made this mistake. All those of you who marked C, D, and E, I would like to understand what exactly you did. D and E, if you did, you were most likely trying to find the maximum value instead of the minimum. That again means we have not read the question properly. So there's a question, shouldn't the answer be -2 since both equations hold true and two equations you get? Why -2? I'm looking for the minimum value. Also, x less than -2 is what I have, not less than equal to -2. Put it in the first one. So it will not work. -2 is not going to work. That does not, you don't even get that in the first inequality. How is that going to work further? Okay, so everybody, please take this learning very seriously. Read the question and only then submit your answer. Okay, with this now, let's all go into the next question. Take this learning further. Mark still solving. Okay, you already know what I'm going to say. Great, let's increase the numbers enough and enable me to start and show you the next question. All right, so here is question number 3, everyone. Be careful. Good luck. Ending the poll in 15 more seconds. Okay, let's do this. Again, it's something that I would want you people to think about. So 38% of you went with A and 30% went with D. So these are the two main choices that you people went for, and there were 10% for C also. Negligible votes for B and E. Now look at A and D. Everybody who marked A, look at D, which is the correct answer, and tell me why you got this wrong. Write down in the chat box. People who marked C, come to the chat box and tell me what did you miss. Everybody who went for A and C, what did you miss? Z squared. Z squared is always positive. Yes, it cannot be negative. Everybody, I want everybody to realize this. Can't be negative, can't be negative. So another 2 seconds that I asked you to look at the question. I said, look at it and tell me what you missed. And you could tell it so nicely. You could tell me what you missed. How? Because it only required that final look, that final attention to detail. If z squared is anyway always positive, why do you say it's greater than -4? That also means that -3 is possible, -2 is possible, -1 is possible, but it's not, right? It's always positive. And also, it could be 0. So let's not say positive, it just can't be negative. D is the correct choice. For people who marked C, you missed the constraint altogether that you get from +4. Maybe because you rejected this one. That was good. You should have, because this is anyway always positive. Let me show you what this should have been done like. Z squared plus 4 is always anyway positive. It doesn't matter. So what is going to make the entire expression negative? Only z squared minus 4. So if z squared minus 2. If z squared minus 2 is negative, you get z squared less than 2. So what people with C did is that you just used this and you marked C. For people who did A, you considered both of these, you drew your wavy line and all of that. You did not eliminate the one thing that is anyway positive, that is not going to make an effect. Whenever this happens, something that is not going to have any effect at all, you can eliminate that right in the beginning. This is all that you needed to work with. I'm glad that you people realize this though. This shows that you have it in you. It's just that attention to detail, that habit that you have to build in yourself, that you do not ignore constraints. Yet again, you ignored a constraint. Z squared had to be non-negative. I hope everybody now sees the importance of this. Tell me what you feel about this, since you've already made the same kind of mistake 2 times, 3 times. How does it feel to be falling into traps? Tell me, what are your biggest takeaways still here? Z squared cannot be a complex number. GMAT does not consider complex numbers at all. It's only real numbers or nothing. Carefully reading and analyzing, yes. Write that loud and huge and big and in bold somewhere. Everybody be careful. Because what this does is, you spend say 1.5 minutes on a question, 1 minute 30 seconds for the whole thing, 120 till 120 you're going fine. In the final 10 seconds you ruin it. Don't do that. Okay, be more careful when you go on. I'm going to take you to the next question now, question number 4. Don't overlook, take a feedback for 2-3 seconds. Yes, attention to detail is the biggest takeaway. I'm glad you people realize how easy it is to miss detail. Even though you might be good with quant, it's easy to miss stuff. Okay, all right, I'm opening the poll now. Mark still solving, and let's go with more attention to the next question. Here we go. Good luck. Okay, ending the poll in 5 seconds. All right, here you go. I wanted to wait for almost everybody to mark the answers this time. So we have very few people who are still solving. The majority has gone with C here this time, and C is the correct answer. This was the same inequality you had in the previous question. You already knew that Z squared is between 0 and 2, and it also can be 0. This time we just said that it's an integer. All you had to do was count the values that it could take. Then it was just 0 and 1, so it was two values. So for the 8% people who marked 1, you did not count 0 again, despite this being exactly what we had in the previous question. Marking D and E were just silly mistakes. You also counted 2. I think 0 and 1 and 2, you counted that as well. But if Z is an integer, Z squared anyway cannot be 2, right? So the correct answer is C. Okay, now with this, everybody, this is just an overview of the questions that we've done till now. Okay, read in the comments, count it to also -1. How can Z squared be -1? Come on, it's a positive number. Read what the question wants. Values of Z squared, not Z. So what you did was, you saw, oh, Z squared is 1, so Z can be plus minus 1. You thought you were being extra careful. You were considering the cases that everybody else missed. That's how you thought. But you did not pay attention that Z squared is what they want, not Z. So you're making the same mistake the third time then. Be careful. Now, okay, for the overview, we saw questions, what happens when the sign of the inequality flips. We saw the wavy line method. We saw how perfect square, something that's the square of a number, is always non-negative, and how that can make us get questions wrong. We saw how to simplify equations first, to, just how we eliminated the x squared plus 4. It was anyway always positive. We saw how constraints can do magic. Constraints can make you get things wrong. Constraints can make you get things right. That is where the population gets divided. Reading the question stem properly, that's the biggest takeaway, as I said, had to be today. Okay, wow. All right, now let's go on. I hope you're going to be more careful, because now I'm going to take you to harder questions, in fact, 700 level and beyond. So for this, again, I want you people to first be ready. Mark still solving, and before we go there, let's just have another small discussion. All of the 600, 700 level questions are over. Write down in the chat box how you feel about this. What do you think? Are you happy with the session? What all do you think you've learned today, and how this is going to help you beyond this? I feel confident. Wow. Sweet and simple. That's the goal here. Okay, others, anything else anybody wants to say? Great session. Thank you. I'm learning my mistakes. Great session again. Thank you. Planning to rewatch this already. Yeah, I know. I would have been the same had I been one of you. The questions seem easy, but I just tend to miss small details. Yes, everybody does, and that's where everything changes. You're really good. Oh, thank you. You made my day. Need to read the question better. Okay, getting into the pattern. Yes, learning from my mistakes. That's a very nice way to make use of a session, okay? Session is really good. I'm so happy you guys are enjoying this, and that makes us enjoy this all the more. We keep doing this every week just so that, we can see this happiness, this growth that you people feel in yourself. With this positivity, let's go into the next question. Oh, wait, nobody marked still solving. The poll is open now. Could you provide the link to Quant 2.0 again? Atreya, could you please give that link again? Okay, let's go into the first hard question, everyone. Good luck. ending the poll in 15 more seconds. Okay, let's end the poll. I could see the struggle in this one because you people took way longer this time. But yes, the question was different. This was the first time you see a system of inequalities where one of them eliminated and the second one, it's not just one that I wanted both variables, so I can understand the time that you took. Now, the choices, the final option, the majority has gone with E, but there are votes for B, D also. A and C, yes, very few, and the majority is correct. So, but the accuracy is really low. 34% of you got this correct and the others did not. So everybody here, the remaining 66%, listen to this carefully, and the 34 as well, listen to make sure that you got this right for the right reasons. Now, we want to find out the minimum possible value of x and the minimum possible of value of y. And why? Because you want to find the positive difference between these two minimum values. Positive difference just means the bigger number minus the smaller number. So first of all, I have to have my two numbers and then I'll just be able to subtract them. Now, these are the two inequalities, and I'm also given that they're positive integers, by the way. So that's a constraint. Let's just make sure it's right there on top so that we don't forget it in the end. Now, you know how we eliminate, right? You have to make sure that the coefficients have the same magnitude with opposite signs for the one variable that you want to eliminate. Before that though, this second inequality is a less than inequality. First one is a greater than inequality, and I know I can't add them unless they have the same sign. What do? Well, a very simple fixed on the second one. I'm just going to multiply the whole thing by -1. So that's going to make this minus 3x minus y. How minus y? Because first of all, it will come here on the left. Look here. So 3x plus y minus 30 is less than 0. Then you just flip the whole thing all together and the first one stays the same. Now that they have the same signs, I could put them one below the other already, but no point, right? I would not be able to eliminate them because I don't have the same magnitude anyway. So what will I do? Well, I have a minus 3x in the second one and just 1x in the first one. So I'll try to make the first one 3. So I'll multiply the entire inequality by 3, and 3 is a positive number, so the sign is not going to change. This is what the first one becomes. Now, this one, the second one, and the third one, we're ready to add them. We will be able to eliminate 3x. All we'll be left with is 5y minus 30 is greater than 0. So that'll overall give you y greater than 6. Once you get y now, you have to also get x. Now what you do is use this simple inequality, this fifth one, with any of the ones that you had to start with. You could use any of them. What I am doing here is I'm going to use this one, the y minus 6 greater than 0, fourth one, with the second one. Why now? Because look at the coefficients, minus 1 here and plus 1 here. So if I add these two, I will be able to eliminate y. All I'll be left with is my x, and then just simple solving gives me x less than 8. Overall, since I want the minimum possible values, if y is greater than 6, it has to be 7 at the very least. And if x is less than 8, well, less than 8 could go as small as I want to. But thankfully, I have this constraint that x is a positive integer. So the minimum that I can go to is 1. With this now I have both of my minimum values and I just wanted the positive difference. So it's the big one minus the small one. So it's 7 minus 6, which gives me 1. Okay, that is what I get. Now 0 you would get if you took the maximum value of x instead. You know, you took x equal to 7. In that case, the difference you would feel is 7 minus 7, which is 0. Okay, now I have a question here. If we keep the value of y equal to 6 in the first inequality, you can't keep it equal to 6, by the way. Y is greater than 6 is what I have. So x plus 2y greater than 20, I can say then x plus 2y is greater than x plus 12. No, you're doing it wrong. All you can say here is that the left side of your inequality, x plus 2y, will be greater than x plus 12. Not that that thing is also greater than 20. You know what you're saying? You're saying that a is greater than b, and A is greater than C, so B is greater than C. How do we know anything at all about B and C? We do not. So the correct answer here is 6, and since so many of you got this wrong, let me ask here in the poll, please mark yes if you understood this now. Okay, considering the 30% people who did not understand this, I'm opening the chat pod. Please tell me what confuses you. I'll try to take as many questions as I can. After that, you will have to go to the Q&A pod and Atreya will help you. Okay, got to y more than 6. How to get x? Well, the same business again. So you have two more inequalities, the fourth one and the second one. Use them to eliminate y. Can we use any revised inequality to solve the second variable? That is precisely what we did. This was an inequality that we got later, the fourth one. This is what we used to get x. How do you get y minus 6 from adding equation 2 and 3? From adding 2 and 3, I didn't add 2 and 3, I added 2 and 4. Oh, okay, here you mean this step. Through 2 and 3. Look, I said if I add 2 and 3, then the 3x and the 3x will vanish. I'll have 5y plus 5y minus 30 greater than 0. Then divide all of it by 5. You're going to get this. So it's necessary to convert both inequalities to the same form. Absolutely, otherwise you cannot add them. You can only add inequalities that have the same sign. So we can't substitute the value of y to get y in an equation. Well, you could do that if it was an equation. It's an inequality, so you cannot. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions here. Y equal to 7 is not a question. All right. Okay, we have 2y greater than 12, and from the first one we have x plus 2y greater than 20. If we subtract these two, we get x greater than 8. We can never subtract inequalities. I'm so glad you did this so that I get to tell this one more point. I was about to say this, but now that somebody has done this, I have more proof that people do this. You can subtract equations. You can add equations, but for inequalities, it's only addition. You can never subtract any equations. Insightful. Thank you. I did it all, but I don't get what is done after getting x and y. Oh, in the end, you just want to find out the positive difference between these two values. So the value of x is 1, minimum value of y is 1, and the positive difference is 6. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm assuming you're talking about subtraction. Okay, but if we subtract and flip signs, will that not work? No, you cannot subtract inequalities. Not at all. Never do that. Okay. All right, great. I hope you people feel more confident now that I've answered your questions, and let's go on. The next question, everybody, will be related to absolute values. I hope you can see the pattern already, how every warm-up question has a partner here in GMAT style questions. So what you got in the corresponding warm-up question is what you need here, along with, of course, all of the basic learnings. Don't forget constraints, read carefully, and everything that still keeps going. The poll is open. Please mark still solving, and we're going to go to the next question then. Okay, yes, I have answered everything in the chat box. Let's go with full energy into this, everybody. Come on. Okay, thank you. Here's question number 6. All the best. ending. Okay, the poll is now closed. Let's see. Look at how divided this vote is. The majority has gone with C, but a very small majority, just 30%. And then there's 24% votes for A, 11%, 19% for B and E, and then 8% for D as well. Now here's question number 6. Let's start discussing. Z is an integer such that absolute value of Z, mod of Z, is less than 6. Is Z positive? Now, to approach any data sufficiency question, what you need to do is start with the question stem. So with the question stem, all I want to see is Z a positive number or not? And what am I given? That the absolute value of Z is less than 6. Now this is very similar to the absolute value warm-up question. What are the numbers whose absolute value is less than equal to 5 is what you did there, and now it's less than 6. So Z can be anything between -6 and 6, excluding those two themselves, because otherwise the absolute value will be 6 and you're not allowed to have that. Now since it is an integer, really there are these 11 possible values only. It's not like an infinite list with 1.5 and 2 points so on. So only integers here. Now this is all I have from the question stem, and if it said that Z is positive, of course I can't tell it already. I have negative Z's also, I have positives also, I have 0 also, which is neither negative nor positive. With this then, when we go to the first statement, we get this. So the absolute value of Z minus 2 is greater than 3. Remember the approach how we made this into a single variable? So say Z minus 2 is T, so this is nothing but absolute value of T is greater than 3. Now what are the numbers whose absolute value will be greater than 3? Either the number itself is greater than 3 or it's less than -3. These are the only two in which this can happen. Then finally, you just replace your T back by Z minus 2. So either Z minus 2 is greater than 3 or Z minus 2 is less than -3. Then you solve it, you get this, and Z greater than 5 and Z less than -1. Now, since I already know from the question stem that my Z is only between -6 and 6, it also does not include -6 and 6. So when somebody says it is greater than 5, is it even possible? Because what are the numbers greater than 5? It's an integer greater than 5. The smallest that it will have to be is 6. And that itself is not allowed in your range according to the question stem. So this first case here gets rejected. You're only left with the second case, that Z is less than -1, which guarantees that your Z is negative. The question was, is it positive? So if I'm sure that it is negative, then I have a definite answer. I can say, no, it's not positive. So statement 1 is sufficient. For people who marked B or C or E, a lot of you all got this wrong. Come in the chat box and tell me what happened. Let me see how many people total went there. So B and C is 41. Then E is another 19. 60% people thought that the first statement was insufficient. Silly mistake. I'm glad you wrote this. You know what I want to say here to this? There is nothing such as a silly mistake. At e-GMAT, we do not believe in silly mistakes. It's something that you miss. When you just say silly, you lose the chance to correct it because you don't know what happened. Pinpoint exactly what happened. Didn't consider it to be an integer. Okay, so you missed the constraint. Perceived the question incorrectly. How? What exactly happened? You know, that is the detail you have to get into when you make your error log. I thought Z is equal to 6. Yes, even though you saw in the question stem that it's strictly less than 6. Failed to cross-check with the question. Okay, so the same thing happened again, that you go back and check what the question wants. Okay, everybody else, come on. 60% people got this wrong, and I have 5 responses here. Analyze what went wrong, let everybody know so everybody can learn from this. I thought I should only find if it gets to positive. Gets to positive means? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. We needed to check if it is positive, and here we were sure that it's not positive. Data sufficiency is all about seeing whether we can get an answer or not. Didn't consider the initial interval. Oh, you didn't consider it, the minus 66. That means you didn't use the question stem at all. I got 2 cases from equation 1, so I rejected them. Yes, so you did not use the question stem, which would help you eliminate this case. I'm sure majority of you who did this wrong did this only. You missed this one case. Yes, didn't analyze the final piece of z being greater than 5. Okay, well, be careful now that you've seen what is happening here, how one small detail can change everything for you. So now it's in the final 40% of you. Let's see who got this right. Here's statement 2. This was a very simple statement. The absolute value of 2 is 2, so z could be plus minus 2. Naturally, it's either positive or negative, so this is not sufficient. So the answer is A. So everybody who marked B and who marked D, so that's 19% of you. Why did you think the second statement was sufficient? So I only want responses from people who marked B and D. Come on, tell me why you thought the second statement was sufficient. This was the one statement that was easy to reject. I can understand people who marked C because they rejected this and they thought, oh, 2 and minus 2, then greater than 5 anyway rejects the 2 for us, so we get it. What happened here? I'm sorry, I forgot to open the poll only. Yes, please tell me. Everybody who thought it's B and D. What was the one thing you missed, and what is the one thing you're going to write in your error log? The very detail that you're going to put in your error log. Start the habit of creating error logs from this session, everyone. Use this session, rewatch it when you get the recording, and if you already remember, write down what you did wrong. Possible to explain the solution again? No, sorry, I can't explain the whole thing again. You will get the recording. Please watch that. In case there's something small, ask me right now or write in the Q&A pod for Atreya to help you. With that, let me move on to the next question then, as I see there are no more comments here. Okay, just took the value of 2 and deemed it was sufficient to determine z as positive. So you didn't even think that it was also minus 2. Just rejected that outright. Okay. Okay. Question number 7. Now we're all going into that. I've reopened the poll. Please mark still solving. Let's get there. All right, everybody. Here's number 7. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. Okay. Now let me show you the results. Again, it's a very, very divided vote. A and B almost have a tie. A, B, and D, all three of them got almost the same number of votes. We do have votes for C and E. So let's see why the confusion, what exactly you missed, and make sure you keep interacting in the chat pod. I've just opened that. Tell me the moment you realize what you do wrong, okay? Let's fix this together. Let's start. What does the question stem tell us? That's how the whole thing is always supposed to begin. So the question stem is only a question. Is A less than B? It really is not giving us anything. Like the previous question, we had a lot of information in the question stem, and using that or not using that, in fact, made a huge difference to our answer. But this time we have nothing but a question. Statement 1. The mod of A minus B is equal to B minus A. Come here on the side and look at this. When I have the mod of anything, mod of x, this value has to be non-negative because absolute values can't be negative. So what I can say is that y, which is the absolute value of something, is non-negative. The same thing then here also, no? This thing here on the right hand side, b minus a, because it is the absolute value of something, it is greater than equal to 0. So b is greater than or equal to a. So b is either equal to a or b is greater than a. And that is what makes it insufficient. So tell me, everybody who thought the first statement was sufficient, did you miss the a equal to b case? Yes, forgot about 0. I thought so. Not considering all cases is a huge problem. We have to make sure that when we're doing something, we don't miss out on cases. Okay, miss the a less than b case. Oh, a less than b was the easier one. That means you did consider the 0 case. What happens if you solve by opening the mod? You would still get the same case. No matter how you solve, you will get the same thing. Okay, so statement 1, therefore, it is insufficient because you're not sure whether A is less than B. It can also be equal to B. So everybody who marked A or D, this is where you went wrong. And it's a lot of people, by the way. Okay, let's go on. Statement 2. A by B is less than 1. If you just multiplied b on the right side and said a is less than b, then you forgot what you learned in the beginning of the session when I said that you can't just multiply that way because you're not sure whether you're multiplying with a positive or a negative number. If it's a negative number, it's going to flip, right? If b is a negative number, for example, it's going to be a greater than b. That is why in the first place I told you why we multiply by the square of the denominator. And here, if you miss that, then that means you're not taking learning from previous questions with you. So again, 24% people who marked B, 27% people who marked D. All of you forgot about this same point again. You have got to spend time with this, make a nice error log, get into the habit of recognizing what mistakes you make and why. Now, when you combine the two statements, the only thing possible is A less than B. Just see how A less than B is the one case common to both of these. And so this time, yes, you can be sure it is sufficient. Only 8% people got this question right. Only 8%. Congratulations to you people. You did this perfectly well. That means you're taking the learnings from previous questions as you're going on. That's huge. That's very, very important. Very, very happy to see this. All right. Now this we have, okay, somebody asked how many more questions. I think 8th is the last question. I'm sorry, I didn't read that before this. How do we avoid making such mistakes? I'm glad you said this. Well, the one mistake, the one way of learning how not to make mistakes is, first of all, to identify the mistakes you make. How would you correct something if you don't even know what you do wrong, right? That is what identification is about. And remember, I talked about error log quite a lot of times in this session today, that you need to sit with the mistakes you make. You need to make sure that you learn from them so that you don't repeat them. Okay. How come it's wrong? What is wrong? Please. Yes, error log is a great idea. Yes, it is. Please follow this diligently throughout your journey and then keep here. Keep keep at it. Okay, let's go on now to the final question. Oh, wait, there's one more question. What if we open mod as a minus b is equal to b minus a? Let's go here, and that gives you what? It'll give you 2a is equal to 2b, so a is equal to b, and a minus b is minus. Oh my god, I please write this in the Q&A pod, because this way we'll use up everybody's time. Everybody, let's go into the next question. I have opened the poll. Please mark still solving. Please post any unanswered questions in the Q&A pod. Questions. Let's have a few more people mark still solving, and only then am I going to open the next question. We already have 45 people ready. Okay, here's number 8 then. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. Okay, let's look at this. So 26% votes for A, 33% votes for E. So the majority went with E and 20% for C. So again, it's a confused vote, but very few people thought it's B and D. That means the reason really is that most of you thought that the second statement was not sufficient, but a lot of you thought that the first statement was. Let's get started. So the question is Z greater than 2? That's it. The question does not give us any information. It only gives us this question. Statement 1. Mod of z minus 2 whole squared is greater than 4. Now look at this carefully. It just means mod of z, sorry, this is square, okay? So this is z minus 2 squared is greater than 2 squared. Why? Because if I have the absolute value of a square, the square is anyway non-negative, so absolute value is not going to do anything there. It's actually pointless to have it, so we can just remove it. Now once we do that, get them both on the same side. Z minus 2 squared minus 2 squared is greater than 0. Now it's an identity, a squared minus b squared, which is a plus b times a minus b. So that product is greater than 0. You simplify that and this is what it becomes, and this is perfectly what you have for wavy line questions. So your 0 points are 0 and 4. Put them, make your wave from the top right hand corner. Ultimately you want it to be positive, so where is it above the number line? Here, where z is less than 0, and then finally once more here on the right side where z is greater than 4. So overall then this gives us two different intervals, less than 0 and greater than 4. My question was, is it greater than 2? So if you're here, then yes, but if you're here, then no. So statement 1 is insufficient. So 24% people who marked A got this wrong. You can keep typing in the chat box. I'll try to take as many questions as I can. So the first statement is insufficient. Statement 2. 8x minus 4k, absolute value of that is z. Too many unknowns. I have 3 unknowns in one single equation. But my question is really, is z greater than 2? And what I should focus on is that z is the absolute value of something. I don't know what, but then being an absolute value, I can definitely be sure it's greater than equal to 0. So there are two cases. One, z is greater than 0 or equal to 0. In any case, I still am not sure whether it is greater than 2. So statement 2 was easy to reject. Statement 2 is insufficient. Now here, let's get the two statements together. Statement 1 gave us these two possibilities, z is less than 0 or greater than 4. And statement 2 told us z is equal to 0 or greater than 0. Now, what is possible here? What are the two cases that can be combined? Just think about it. Z less than 0 is rejected by the second statement completely. It's out of the picture. So z greater than 4 is a possibility since I know it's greater than equal to 0. But then equal to 0 is also rejected because that does not work in statement 1. So the only case that works in both of them is this. And when I write them together, what I really get is that z is greater than 4. And if it is greater than 4, it definitely is greater than 2. So the correct answer is C, and only 21% got this correct. A lot of you came till this stage of combining the statements, but 33% ended up marking E. You did not think this was sufficient because you did not combine your statements properly. Okay, this was again a very, very important question that could show you how, being careful at every step is super important. When do we know how to combine? When do we know? Well, when you're doing when you're combining the statements for C and E, that's when you know you have to combine statements. No, you have to get data from both of the statements and you have to see where they can both be true. How much time should we take to solve such questions? When you're learning the concepts, don't think about time at all. This is where you're learning concepts. It happens when you learn application. This being a hard level question, still do not spend more than 2.5 minutes on this. 3 minutes is like you never give any question that much time. Okay, can you explain the logic why we can ignore the two possibilities on absolute value when we have a square inside the mod? Well, think about it. I'm taking the absolute value of x squared. Since x squared is always anyway non-negative, what is my absolute value going to do to it? It's anyway going to stay x squared only, na? So it doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Then this C was the answer, as I said. I don't see any more questions about this directly. Can we just say we add or subtract on both sides of the inequality and no other operation? No, not at all. You can definitely multiply both sides. You can definitely divide both sides. But the only thing is, if you're multiplying and dividing both sides by a negative number, your inequality flips. You're free to do what you're doing. Keep posting your questions as I go on talking more about this, okay? GMAT Quant can be mastered, as I showed you today here. If only you focus on the right concepts, the right methods, it can be mastered. Here are so many success stories. Krish is at a 740, he's Q51 V38. Now he used to fail and fall into these traps all the time. That is what is happening to you guys today. He was one of them, but then he focused on solving things the right way, changed his approach, and see how he landed with the highest possible score. Why not take square root on both sides? You can't take square root on both sides because what you're thinking is that if x squared is greater than 4, then x is greater than 2. That's not true. X can also be less than negative 2. Here's another success story by Leonardo. He is a Wharton, admit his background. Unable to cross Q45 despite working really hard, but then what helped him ultimately was a methodical approach. Shortcuts do not help on the GMAT. If you're one of those people who focus on shortcuts and you're all about solving questions correctly, you will get stuck when it comes to tougher questions. Okay, so use Coloranium, use the free trial to access our questions. First of all, watch those concept videos that we shared with you and then solve questions on Scholoranium. Try to use everything. Now, where to focus next? You know, Scholoranium gives you this data. So algebra, if you see for this person, is 64%, 38% for quadratic. This is the various topics within algebra. So for a person who's at a 64%, if Scholoranium tells you that functions are where you have 38%, wouldn't you know that that is the main problem? And then inequalities. Why would you spend time on exponents? Why would you spend time on quadratics, right? This is how you have to be smart and how Scholoranium is going to help you be smart and spend your energy in the right places. Check out Mazibar's success story from a Q30 to a Q45. This should motivate a lot of you. In case there are people who don't have math backgrounds or not very confident, just see how it can happen. It's a huge improvement. How then? Low-level questions, use them to understand the basics. Just how I gave you warm-up questions today, that's the logic. And then the difficulty level as it increases, you get ready for GMAT-style questions. So things happen if we prepare things the right way. Look at his success story again. Q38 to Q50. That's huge. I'm sure everybody would want such huge improvements. It happens. It happens. We have data from thousands of students now to be confident of the product we're giving you. Okay, just experience this for yourself, go to the free trial, and then have fun with the course. Now, focus on learning, adopt good habits, don't take shortcuts, read constraints, be careful, get started right away, use the free trial modules that we sent you, all of those free files and the questions, spend time there, make sure you build a 200% clarity in concepts before you do GMAT style questions. Otherwise, you see how, you get stuck later on. The test maker cannot throw anything at you that you just cannot solve at all. You have to be careful, you have to trust what you have. Just go with this confidence when you go for questions. I have everything in my arsenal. Either I'm going confidently or I'm going in to learn more. Okay, so for next steps, guys, revise the algebra concepts, the videos that we sent you, use questions from the Scholaranium, the free questions that you have access to, and let data do its magic. Tell me how you felt you found the session. I hope everybody got a lot from here today. Let me know if you have any feedback. Can you send the link again? Atreya, we would like to have the link again. Excellent. Thank you. All right, feedback, guys. Tell us how you liked this. What more would you like to see? Till the time Atreya shares this link with you, there you have Quant 2.0 link. You were great. Looking forward to more sessions. Thank you. I'm going to conduct more sessions for sure. Great session. Thank you. Thank you. How do I get the recording? You're going to get a recording on your email tomorrow morning. You'll get an email. So can we add or subtract inequalities? No, you can't add you can add inequalities, you cannot subtract inequalities, but you can add numbers on both sides. You can subtract numbers on both sides for sure. Okay, thank you. Thank you for all of those beautiful comments. You're amazing. Thank you. All right. I'm very happy you people are leaving happily. I hope all of you have all of the links now. Atreya has put them all on your screens. Take the links. We'll see you soon in more sessions. Thank you very much for joining today. Good night and good day. Bye-bye.